Welcome to Astro Detectives, where we are debunking or proving astrology one case at a time. We're here once again with our favorite astrologer, Sarah, who's going solo this week again. I gotta say, it's kind of fun. And I know you like having more backup and another astrologer to bounce ideas off of, but you're brave to be going solo again. Does it remind you of our early days when it was just us?
It does, although we are in Scorpio season now, so going solo can be a thing. Feeling, being alone, Scorpio theme. So I'm fine with it though. We had an astrologer booked and the last minute change couldn't show, so that's fine. I've really spent a long time digging into these charts and all the transits they provided, so I feel good. I feel prepared. And I feel like these charts feel like they hold enough differences that I feel comfortable.
That's great. Not a housekeeping note. We record these a little bit ahead of time. This episode is actually recorded before the election in the United States. It brings to mind, like to me, the people listening to this and even us in the future might be having a very good or bad or who knows what kind of week when this comes out. One of the nice things about, I think, this show is it's a diversion. It's you're able to take a little break and have some fun as we test astrology and learn about humans. So, maybe learning about your fellow humans and caring for them is maybe a lesson to be used in the future whenever this episode is being listened to.
And you can learn about them through astrology.
Well, I mean, you can learn about them through talking with them for 45 minutes or however long we spend with our guests, which is what I love about this show is, deeply appreciating people around you and finding commonalities. And in some ways, that's kind of like what you do with the charts. I would say is like, how does this person fit this chart? What do they have in common here? Okay, what do they have in common with this chart? And it's kind of bringing them together.
I think also just vulnerability is so beautiful. And I'm a big Brene Brown fan who talks all about vulnerability. And I think that I love that our show, people come on and they tell their life story and they get vulnerable and they tell very personal things. And I think that makes people just more relatable. And I love when people are vulnerable. I think that it's more, you can relate to them better. When someone just can't be vulnerable and they have like all their walls up, it's just hard to relate to them.
We're breaking down walls, just like last week? No, 2 guests ago, we were breaking down doors with Jason, but now we're breaking down walls.
Yeah.
Want to jump into the charts?
Mm-hmm.
What are we working with this time?
Okay. Well, and just to remind everybody, you can go to AstroDetectivesPod.com and download the case files so you can play along and look at both of the charts. So this week we have a Cancer sun with a Taurus moon and a Virgo rising versus a Capricorn sun with an Aquarius moon and an Aries rising. So just right off the bat from that, we've got someone, our Cancer chart with a Taurus moon and Virgo rising is a lot more, you've got a lot more like earth and water going on there. With earth is very like grounded and practical and water is very sensitive and feeling and nurturing, versus like a Cap sun with a Aquarius moon is both signs ruled by Saturn, which is a lot more definitely what's the right word? More stoic, not as touchy-feely, maybe. And Aries rising gives them a lot of like passion and go-getterness. But yeah, so I guess just overall, like the differences I was kind of finding or what I was maybe expecting from these two charts is the Cancer sun person has so many signatures in their chart that indicate that they might be either some sort of like teacher, coach, or maybe religious figure, something in that area, because they have Jupiter on their midheaven. They've got their moon in the ninth house. They've got their south node in Sagittarius. So a lot of like kind of wisdom, religion, guru, teacher kind of signatures there. So then in our Capricorn chart, they are in Aries rising and their Mars is in Libra in the seventh house. So they're definitely here. Like, this might be somebody who is really defined by their relationships, like their romantic relationships, their business relationships, their one-on-one relationships. That is something they're really here to focus on and learn. And they also have Saturn in Pisces in the 12th house, which can be someone who really struggles with depression and things like that. Or it can be a real heavy feeling. So that could be another signature that we might see if that's the chart.
All right. A lot to look for there. And I will be as helpful as possible to help you when you're deciding between the two in the little huddle time. But we get through quite a few questions. Hopefully, guests, you're playing along and you've got your charts. Sarah, anything else people need to look out for? They got their charts in front of them. They're...
Well, so far, so I've gone over the survey that they filled out, and they provided a lot of, answers and dates that I dug into. Actually,
transits will be big this week. All right, I remember there was a transit thing last week. We had some good transits too, with our last guest, and there was one incident where I remember you were talking. Anyway, Mars does this or this does, knowing well. What placement is really pointing towards this event? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to highlight one that they provided, which I think, we ask a lot of different questions on here. Like, if you were in a car accident, let us know that date, or if somebody died or got a job, things like that. But they gave such an interesting, specific example for receiving a large sum of money. And it happened not that long ago. They said, about back in September 12, 2024, when I went to a conference and won a $100 gift card in a drawing. Then they won a second $100 gift card in a vendor booth drawing, and then a Starbucks gift card the same day. And then the next day they won something else. So they what? It was a really lucky day for them. And
go ahead. I was going to add to it that, and I love that they said at that point, the fourth gift, they asked to re-gift it because they felt like they had already been given too many. They had won too much.
Which, you know what? Very generous. Mm-hmm. Which one of these charts, that Cancer chart has Jupiter on the midheaven, and Jupiter is very generous, and especially in their career or things like that. But that Cancer chart, this is why, I'm pretty much leaning towards the Cancer chart, but we'll see what happens. I could change my mind based on their interview and what they look like and everything. But what was so fascinating to me is when I looked at the transits on that day, September 12th, 2024, for this lucky day that they had, the sun was their time lord. It means it's the ruling planet of their year, was at the exact degree of their ascendant that day. And also Jupiter was they were having a Jupiter return, and it was exactly squaring that sun in their ascendant. So that was to me, holy crap. If I saw that on someone's chart, I would say, oh, you're going to have a really lucky day that day.
Perfect. I love it.
So, yeah. So that's where I'm leaning so far is that because of that, not all because of that transit, but that one really put me over the edge.
I was going to say, well, it seems like if you're looking at two charts and something just jumps off the page on a day that was important, and we did that with the previous guest where they had a really bad accident on a certain day. And one chart, Mars was doing some crazy stuff. And, I would take that leap, right? It seems like that would be obvious.
Well, on that particular episode, in the wrong chart, Mars was transiting the first house. It wasn't exact on their ascendant or anything like that. It was close, but like, you know, that ended up just being a coincidence. Whereas in the other chart, there were some indicators, but sometimes it's not as striking and astonishing, as, for instance, this one in this Cancer chart. Sometimes they just leap off the page and make for an incredibly, lucky day. Like, I mean, that wasn't just like, it's not like they just won a gift card. They won 4 things, and so that is huge. And so in the other chart, I really wasn't necessarily seeing anything leap off the page,
Well, on your chart, are your transits looking good for having a lucky day? Because I feel like it's
somebody,
coming.
I try not to actually look at my own transits too much. I don't like to get too paranoid, but I hope I'm about to have a lucky day. So,
all right. Well, our guest is in the waiting room, so if we're all set, we will take a quick break and be right back to find out which one of these 2 charts matches them. Hey listeners, we're not just a podcast that tests astrology, we're an independent detective agency. That means we rely on you to help us keep the show running.
Exactly. By joining Astro Detectives on Patreon, you can support our mission to finally prove astrology is real.
Or, completely debunk it.
Here we go again.
One thing we can agree on, Astro Detectives is the only place you'll find astrologers and skeptics working together, like a buddy cop movie you didn't know you needed.
And trust me, detective work takes time, gathering evidence, late night stakeouts, solving cases, especially when Mercury's retrograde.
Okay, you can't blame Mercury.
The first step is easy and free. Just follow Astro Detectives on Patreon to get access to our debrief episodes where the conversation continues after each case ends. We break down what went right and what went wrong.
And if you want to fast track your training, become a rookie detective for only $3 a month. You'll unlock exclusive bonus episodes, plus early releases and the top secret case files sent straight to your inbox.
Or for just $1 a month, we'll make you an Astro intern. No compensation per se, but hey, you'll gain valuable detective experience and that warm, fuzzy feeling knowing you're helping us keep the lights on.
So if you like what we're doing and want to support us, head over to patreon.com/astrodetectives and join the investigation today. Welcome back, everybody. We're here and we are joined with our guest, Beth. Welcome to Astro Detectives.
Hey, thanks. I am happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. And we always start with the same question. What are you wearing today? And do you have any tattoos?
Oh, wow. I am wearing my work clothes because I just finished work a little bit ago today. And no, I have no tattoos.
Are work clothes comfortable, or can you just kind of generally, what is that?
Business
entail?
on the top, party on the bottom.
Is this work from home clothes?
Yes. So I get to wear yoga pants most days or jeans and just look nice from the shoulders up and everything's good.
That's a beautiful transition that we've made with this whole virtual workplace.
Absolutely.
Do you miss seeing people in person at work?
I do sometimes. I do make a point of going into the office. I have that option a couple of times a month just to stay in touch with folks. And so that helps. Yes.
And they look at you enviously as the person who can come in just a couple times a month.
Most of them get that same. We only have a small handful of people who are forced into the office on a daily.
You got to schedule the days so they overlap with the people you want to see.
Yes, and I do that. Yes.
All right. Well, let's get into career and talk about work. What is it that you do, and what do you feel like? What about it especially draws you to it?
I work in the healthcare industry for a major health insurance company. And I support people who are underserved. So that would be the Medicaid and the low-income Medicare spaces. I'm an administrator, so I work in the back end, not directly with members, but I love seeing the difference that it can make in people's lives.
So is this kind of like scheduling and getting people approved for procedures, or, forwarding someone who needs to have a different doctor look at something? I don't know. Well,
I mean, that's part of it because it's health insurance, right? But my job is more people oriented. So I'm in what's called the member experience realm. So I oversee the call centers that support people and the websites and the member materials and kind of the initial engagement with members so that I can make sure that they get connected to the right resources.
Now, I can imagine a health insurance call center. You might occasionally get an unhappy person calling you. And you talk to the people who talk to them?
I talk to the people who talk to them, and we monitor the calls and give advice after the fact. We try to be like, this is what you did really well. This is what you could do better next time. And then we get complaints that we follow up on. And I'm responsible for the team that does the research and the response on that. So that's called a grievance. And usually we can get to a good resolution because luckily I work for a company that cares, and they can they try really hard to make sure that the member gets what they need at the end of the day. A lot of times it's just education. So I love informing and educating.
I do imagine there are certain calls that have been recorded to be used for training purposes that say like, okay, this one really went off the rails. Here's how we avoid having this happen again.
Absolutely. That does happen on occasion. Yes. Usually it's not a full train wreck. Usually there might have been just we like to call them even betters. So very seldom, I'm lucky enough that I have an awesome team. And so for the most part, they're very well trained and very adept. Sometimes it's more the person who doesn't understand and isn't really listening. And so you can't get your point across. And so that can be a little bit of the challenge, is from the other person's perspective and trying to get them calmed down enough so that you can actually say, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to make your life any harder today. I'm here to actually get you what you need. So as long as you can get them to listen and get them calmed down, then usually it's a successful outcome.
I feel like I might have an issue with that. I'd be like, hey, buddy, you called me, okay? So remember, I can hang up. How do you feel like your friends or work colleagues would describe you?
Oh, wow. Honest, transparent, communicative, supportive, fair but firm. I have high expectations, but I also understand that humans are humans. And, we have a very strong department full of people who have lots and lots of life things going on. So it's always family first. And so any accommodations that need to be made, we make. And so that's really nice. Again, it's the company culture, and I get to partake in that. So that's a blessing.
When things kind of aren't going well, how do you deal with the difficult emotions? Whether it's anger or, just frustration or any sadness. Like, is there a way that you process that?
Well, I kind of sometimes think I laughingly say I have DID because if it's professional, I can pretty much handle anything and it won't bother me because it's all just perspective. And but if something hits me at a personal level, then I'm really bothered by it, and I will stew about it, and I will worry about it, and I will care about it. And I don't want to say obsessed. That's a little bit too strong of a word, but I will give it way more thought than it probably needs to have. On a professional level, I always just try to keep the emotion out of it and stay fact-based. And part of that's just my training and my years of experience. But again, if somebody, even in a work situation, if they say something that hits too close to home and it starts to touch me personally, then I have to take a breath, walk away, and come back when I can be calmer and more professional, because I'll it's, what is that book? They moved my cheese book. I don't like it when someone is trying to tell me that I don't want to say that I'm not right, because I'm not always right. I like to be right, but I know I'm not always right. But yeah, I think that's where it hits me, is if it starts to feel like it's a personal attack, then that can be pretty upsetting. I used to cry a lot when I was a little younger, but nowadays I'm a lot more chill.
So if they're telling you what to do and you feel like I'm right, that's the difficulty that makes it kind of personal, or that they're judging your performance and abilities more than professionally.
It's kind of hard to articulate. I think if I'm being told that I'm going against like something ethically, or like breaking a rule or something, I think that would, like, how dare you say that I broke a rule? I'm a rule follower, and I was doing everything on the up and up. Or don't judge my character. My character and my respectability are probably the things that I cherish the most, because I consider myself to be honest and transparent above all things. And so if someone tries to think that I'm hiding something, or I tried to make something up to cover or something like that, I guess, then that'll hit home, and I'll get all up in arms about that.
Yeah, it's more than a critique, but almost an accusation.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to put it. Yes.
Like being vilified.
Yeah, I don't want to be the villain. I want everybody to like me.
That's how I feel too. Like I whenever I'm vilified, I don't take it well.
Yeah, I think you might have just hit that one right on the head, because that is exactly how it feels. If I'm made to feel like I'm the one in the wrong, and that's why I try so hard to give everyone else the benefit of the doubt. I kind of always try to assume best intent, rather than assuming that somebody's doing something wrong on purpose. Mm-hmm. And so I think when I don't get that same like golden rule type of behavior in response, then I can get pretty defensive.
But in the rare times that you are in the wrong, do you like notice it, or what is that feeling like? Do you say like, "Oh, you're totally right, my mistake," or how does that go?
Absolutely, I'm very accountable. I did have a bit of a meltdown a couple of weeks ago, where it was the website, and I take a lot of ownership. So it was like my website. It's not my website, it's the company's website. But I went out there, and there was something that was different. And I was like, how did this change? And how did I not know that it changed? And why is this gone? And I got on my email, and I wrote a very righteous email about how the website was all messed up. And sure enough, I get a response, and they're like, no, that was an upgrade. Sorry, we didn't tell you about it. But if you press that button over there, then all of that stuff is just moved. And but it's all there. None of it's gone. And so I was like, oh, so sorry. I totally jumped the gun there. It didn't look like I expected it to, and I thought somebody messed with it. But yeah, thanks for that. In the back of my mind, I was still like, would have been nice if you would have told me in advance. But so.
Oh, I emailed Sarah one time and said that the website is not loading, and then I realized I had a bad internet connection, and there was something like, or the cache needed to be cleared. For some reason, it wasn't load. My computer wasn't loading the website, but the website was fine.
Yeah. Strong sense of ownership, I guess, is one of my things.
Let's go back to childhood. What kind of a kid were you? What were you kind of into? And just what was childhood like for you?
I was always a pretty creative child. From a very, very early age, I think the one thing that is a constant was my love for singing. So I have been singing ever since I remembered. Strangely, my dad really, really loved it and encouraged it. My mom was kind of like not as excited about my creative side, but still kind of put up with it and allowed me to do that. I got into drama club. I was always pretending and playing dress up, and I was very big into Barbies for many more years than I probably should have been in retrospect because of the play acting with the dolls and things like that. And then I became probably the world's greatest babysitter. And I think I had a babysitting gig from, I don't know, probably for 10 years straight. From a pretty early age until I started working at the age of 16. So, just really enjoyed that creative side. I learned to play the piano. The one thing about my childhood is that my dad was actually a minister. And so we moved around a lot. He was a diplomat, and he would go to problem churches and then fix their politics and then move us on. So it got a little bit difficult as I started getting older. When I was very young, I didn't really understand what it meant to move. But then once I started establishing friendships and things, then it started to become a little bit harder. And then by junior high, it was a real drag. And I remember we had to move the summer between my 10th and 11th grade year. And that was really hard because I had my first, what I thought at the time was my true love. And so I had to move towns, and that was really, really hard for me. Luckily, I had a little bit of shyness in the middle there during my awkward years. And a couple of those moves, I was kind of the quiet, more reserved child. I think it got harder for me to make friends for a while. And then I just remember that 11th grade year, that summer before my 11th grade year, I remember having to take my driver's test in a strange town, which just really stressed me out. I passed barely, but I think that's when I was like, I'm just going to change my life. And when I got there, I made sure I was in choir, and then I joined the drama club, and I just got in with all of those kids. And that's the nice thing, is that creative crowd is very welcoming. And so it's easier to be the new kid because you're not in that. May not be the coolest kid club ever in high school, but it was comforting. And so I really enjoyed my last couple of years of high school. That worked out really well for me.
And in some ways, the moving, did it just that one time, or in general give you the opportunity to almost reinvent yourself or kind of become a different, slightly maybe different version of yourself with a new group of people around you?
Well, it was always in, those formative years. I remember, what year was it? It was after the 5th grade into the 6th grade. And that was probably the toughest one. I felt, I moved into this neighborhood. It had a lot of school kids in it. I made what I thought was going to be a really good friend, and I thought everything was going to be okay. But then when we hit the schoolyard and went to class, that same friend, I guess I didn't get the right check marks from that peer group. And so I remember her not coming home from school with me that day. And we'd been pretty constant friends most of the summer. And she told me it was because her friends didn't think I was the right kind of person and I wasn't going to be part of that clique or whatever. I mean, I don't think we used the word clique, but like I couldn't hang with her friends now that we were in school. And that was painful. And I remember kind of withdrawing because that was my friend. And now she wasn't going to be my friend anymore because of what other people had to say about it. And so that was really tough. And when you're in the 6th grade and you get that kind of message, you don't really know how to process it very well. And so I think the next several years I was real quiet, and it took me a while to kind of bounce back from that. And then finally, by like, I don't know, 8th or 9th grade, I think that's when I got back into the kind of creative side and started hanging out with those kids and got kind of back in my groove.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned your dad being a bit of a diplomat and working out, the politics within a struggling church. Do you see any similarities to problem resolution that you do now, or helping people resolving customer problems? Or any of that you internalized, like learning from him?
I think on a personal level, yes. I'm more on the passive, and I'd rather make peace in family and friends' life. Work is where I'm in a leadership role, so I can't really be too passive or too. I can't let emotions rule, but I am a marshmallow at home. So I don't know. It's like like I said earlier, it's kind of a double life. So my work life is hard, and my family life is soft. And I think I do have a younger brother, and he and I both say that we favor our dad and the way that he lived life. He was always very positive, always very nurturing, always never had a bad day. He used to drive my mother nuts because they'd have arguments, and then 5 minutes later you'd hear him whistling and going up or down the steps, and not everything rolled off of him. And my mom was more of a brooder, and she would hold a grudge for a few days, and it would take her a while to get over any kind of like family conflict. But and my brother and my dad were of the life is too short and let's just get over it and move on type of attitude. So I think that's probably the better one to adopt. So I'm pretty happy with that decision.
Yeah. Moving on to marriage and romantic partners. Can you kind of talk about the type of person you're drawn to, and if you're married, just describing that person without any ages on anything? And
I am remarried, and I did not repeat the sins of my past. I am married to a lovely man who accepts me the way that I am and wouldn't change anything about me. And I can say the same about him. And so that is my favorite part, because I didn't have that in my first marriage. There was a lot of change and that was trying to happen. And as most of us know, you cannot change people, and people have to change themselves. And when you fight against that, then things never go quite as they seem. So it's nice to have somebody who is your emotional equal and is so accepting. He's more of a blue collar boy, and I am more of a white collar girl. And somehow those opposites attract. And he is also slightly older than I am. And so he lovingly refers to me as his sugar mama, but there's not that much room between us. But so, I mean, he doesn't have any jealousy about the fact that, I have, a certain status in the white collar world, and he is perfectly fine with being his blue collar self. So.
Sarah had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about your previous marriage. Did that person struggle with any kind of form of addiction?
Yes.
Okay. And you can elaborate only if you want to, but you don't have to.
I think I'll.
Okay, that's fine.
Honor his.
Yeah.
With
your husband, you said blue collar. Is there any type of work that you can get in, describe that he does?
Journeyman electrician.
Mm-hmm.
And he does a lot of work in robotics. So I don't know. I don't know enough about it to be super smart about explaining it. But like the arm on the machine, and he programs it to move across the thing and pick something up, and move it to the elevator that then lifts it and sends it off to the next thing. He does all of that somehow.
Wow. Okay. So in the future, as AI develops, he might be the one that has the upper hand.
Yeah, he does. They're called PLCs, if anybody out there knows what a PLC is. But yeah, he does all of that programming stuff.
Does he ever build anything around the house to take care of some chores so he doesn't have to? A little robot arm to handle something? Or take the trash out?
No, but I do call him MacGyver. That's my nickname for him. So he's very, very handy. And my first husband, no handiness. But he can fix cars. He can fix furnaces. He can fix anything. Dishwashers, you name it.
Any kids?
Yes, 3.
Can you just kind of talk about each of their personalities?
So different. My oldest is a boy, very liberal. He would take the shirt off his back and give it to the guy on the street in a heartbeat if he felt like the guy was cold, and is just the sweetest, kindest person that you ever would want to meet. He is into in the IT world. He does computer like software development. And I am lucky enough that all my kids live within an hour from me, so that's nice. My middle child is a girl, and she is also a healthcare administrator. I had gotten her a part-time or a short-term job many, many moons ago, and she decided she loved it and has been doing it ever since, and is at the manager level now. So that's awesome. And then my baby boy is in accounts payable. And he would be a hermit if you allowed him to be. He is kind of a little bit quiet and a little neurodiverse around the edges, but very independent and very sweet.
All right. That's all I got for that category.
Okay.
I always check with Sarah. I'm like, anything else she wants to add before I move along? She's over there taking notes.
Oh, well, I was just looking at their zodiac signs, and but I know their signs because I have their dates, so I don't need to guess them. But like you gave very accurate descriptions of their signs.
Now, my middle child, my girl, is very emotional. So that is a given. I hope someday she will chill out like I have, but I was also much more prone to emotional outbursts and like crying during arguments and that kind of thing when I was a young adult. But I can't decide if it's maturity or if it's that I'm finally with the right person who I always feel accepted by that has chilled me out. I don't know which that is, but I am surely a lot less emotional these days than I used to be.
Not emotional in a bad way. You still have the good emotions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I wear all of them on my sleeve. Everyone knows how I'm feeling at any given point.
All right. On money and debt, how is that relationship, with making it, spending it, saving up for big things, or just kind of like it goes out as it comes in?
Oh, gosh, no. Today it is awesome. I wouldn't be able to say that throughout my entire life, but in my current world, I have no issues monetarily. I do not carry any debt, and we we only spend what we know is there and have a pretty good nest egg.
All right. Now, a lot of our listeners are saying, what's the secret?
Not spending more than you make and not building a credit card debt. I will say that when I very first was drawing a professional paycheck, it was hard. And I wanted to do things to the house, and I wanted to, buy a nicer car, and I wanted to go on a fancy vacation. And I did it all on credit cards, and I got into debt. And it took me 6 years or something to just, get rid of that and chipping away at it. And then if you really do the math and figure out how much interest you're paying on a credit card, then it kind of wakes you up. And so once I got free and clear, I just kind of set myself to never doing that again and saving my pennies and my dollars. And I don't know, I have this thing about change, loose change. My whole family laughs at me about it. But, when I go and I put it in the bank and it's $300, then it's not quite such a joke anymore. So, I mean, and nobody missed it. And so I do that kind of thing, or I'll salt away a $10 bill or a $5 bill, and then I'll go put it in the savings account later. And those things add up, and and then I call that my mad money. And I also have 2 savings accounts. One that's true savings for a rainy day, and then one that you can save up and spend at Christmas time, or you save up for the vacation that you want to take, or you save up for this or that or the other thing. So I've become very practical about money spending. I don't deny myself the things I want so much, but I plan for them instead of being impulsive about it. So that's my secret.
I'm thinking about $300 worth of coins and the size of that piggy bank.
It was several jars full. And but I mean, that, I don't know why that's a thing. I really enjoy that. It's kind of like sitting on the beach and combing through for that pretty shell. That's another a thing that I enjoy when I'm at the beach, because I live in a landlocked part of the United States. And so the beach is a real treat for me.
Now, I'm thinking, I don't know, this is off topic, but those machines in the grocery store, do you bring your change and you just dump them in and it takes 5 or 10%, or you're going straight to the bank?
I'm going straight to the bank.
Do you have to roll them up, or they just take a big bunch of change?
I found a bank that has the same type of machine, but they don't take the 11%. It's 11% now. It used to be 5%, and then it turned to 10%. And then it would be a little less if you just did it for a store credit card or something. And then I was like, no, I'm not giving up 10%. I'm going to take it to the bank.
That's interesting how did they adjust for inflation? Because for them to count a quarter is the same effort regardless of what a quarter's worth. And so for them to keep up with inflation, they literally have to increase the interest. Mm-hmm. That eventually it's going to be 100% of what you put in there.
Well, to pay the guy to come pick up the coins, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you'd break your back, wouldn't you?
On health and self-care, any health issues, just physically or just overall, that have sort of been reoccurring or have been front and center for your life?
I have a very Midwestern eye condition. It isn't very pretty. It's called ocular histoplasmosis, and it is scar tissue in your eye, and then blood vessels come and try to make their way into the back of your eye, which is not a pleasant thing. So I have to have regular treatments for that, and it involves a sharp needle in your eye. So not fun, but also not as dramatic as one might think. It's a very similar, I know, right?
Sarah is wincing.
So the first time I cried, I felt like a 3-year-old, and I sat there and I didn't realize that pretty much everybody in that specialist office was also getting the same treatment I was, but they were all very sweet to me. And then I said, I can't come back here. And so I called my doctor and I got a Xanax. prescription that I used like the next like 5 or 6 times I had to go. And now I'm kind of immune to it, and it's not as big a deal. I've learned how to deal with the treatment. You basically just have to put yourself in a dark room for a couple of hours, keep your eyes closed, and then you wake up and it's pretty much done. So it's just short-term pain for not losing your central vision.
Is it one or both of your eyes?
I'm sorry?
Is it one or both of your eyes?
Both, unfortunately. Yeah. And one of the scars is super close to my optic nerve, and it's starting to, I have like a little gray spot.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, not fun, but.
Does it, how did you know that this was happening? Does it impair your vision or?
So the very, very first time, and I had asked that question because I was told I had these scars, and that sometimes they activate and sometimes they never do. And so hopefully I would be among the people that the scars never caused any activation, which is a blood vessel trying to grow into it. And I'm like, well, how would I know? And they were like, you'll know. And I woke up one morning, and through one of my eyes, it was literally like I was looking through a funhouse mirror at myself. My vision was literally skewed, and everything was very S-curvy, for lack of a better term. And so I knew right away, they said I would know if it happened. And sure enough, I knew right away that's what it was. So, yeah.
Wow.
And they told me when I started treatment, they told me that the treatment was only about 10 years old. And so 10 years prior, had it activated, I would have lost my central vision in both eyes. So I was very blessed for it to happen as late as it did in life, because if it would have started just 10 years earlier, then it would have caused me to lose my vision in at least one eye. So, yeah, I know. So, I'm considering it kind of lucky for having been stuck with this particular eye condition, but that's about the only thing wrong with me.
Mm. And
have you ever had?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, have you ever had any other type of ailments, minor things like twisted an ankle or a rash or something like that?
Yeah, as a kid, I used to sprain my ankle all the time. I don't know why. I don't know if I was just klutzy or put myself in harm's way or what, but it seemed like it was always rolling an ankle. And I probably did that a dozen times in my childhood. And then as an adult during COVID, I actually was carrying a box, an empty box. This is one of my things I don't like to admit that I'm now admitting on a podcast where other people will see it. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like my guardian angel was saying to me, break down that box. And I said, I should probably break this box down before I take it out to the garage. And then I went, and I ignored it. And I very confidently stepped down on the very first step into the garage. It was 2 steps. And I very confidently missed it. And I fell like a tree and broke my ankle.
Whoa.
In the middle of COVID, during that time when they were not doing any surgeries and not letting you into the emergency room, or, you had to go in by yourself. And I'm literally, how do I get into the emergency room? Because I literally couldn't walk.
This was 2020?
Yes.
Do you know if it was March 2020 or if it was close to the end of 2020 or?
Oh, it was, gosh, I can't even remember. It was warm weather. I remember that much.
Let's go summer 2020.
There you go.
Okay. Okay.
I was thinking it was going to be a happy ending, and the box broke your fall. I thought it was going to be I was so glad that I didn't break down the box. I fell forward, landed on the box, feeling great.
No. And I had to have surgery in the whole 9 for that. Yeah. Yep. And the surgery was not an awesome one. So,
Oh man.
yeah, I finally went and got a second opinion and about a year later and got the screws and the plate removed. And that gave me a lot of relief.
Now, for like everyday self-care, are there any habits or routines that you personally have found to be especially beneficial that, when you incorporate them into your day or week or whatever?
I always feel better when I use affirmations. I'm into those, and just quiet time. Self-reflection is a big part of my life, and it keeps me calm and it keeps me kind of grounded. And so I think that is the one thing. And then my music is my other. It is a hobby. It is a saving grace, no matter what mood I need to get out of. If I play the piano or sing a song, I'm always going to feel better. And if I don't have access to that, or it's not appropriate, I can, put my earplugs in and listen to some music that I love. And rather than playing angry music, I always try to play uplifting music that's going to encourage and motivate me rather than just, make my anger. I remember my first, or after my first marriage, I was into all the angry music, and I thought that was making me feel so much better. But I don't know. I have found over time that, concentrating on positive things is going to get you a lot farther in life.
Are there any go-to songs that you just like, it's top of the list if you want to break into song or start playing the piano, or what's at the top of the playlist?
Oh, it changes so often. I am a fan of like classic pop and things that I have listened to for more years than I can count. Billy Joel, Elton John are always at the top of my list. I'm very eclectic. I love Carrie Underwood and some of the other kind of cross pop / country stars. Kelly Clarkson. I don't know. I love Kelly Clarkson. I'm a closeted American Idol fan up to this day, and wish I could have been young enough and brave enough to be on that show when I was able to be on it, but I never did. So I live vicariously through other younger artists a lot. So
every now and then they bring on the older artist and it blows everybody away. They're like, what?
Yeah. But I mean, I can jam with some Beyonce too. So
yeah. Well, might as
I
well
like it all.
Yeah. Roll into the other media recommendations. Any movies or books that you would recommend to the audience?
Oh, I'm not really so much of a movie person anymore. But books are a big thing. Again, a very eclectic taste in books. I loved, on the nonfiction side, there was one called Blink, and it was about trusting your gut. And that one was a really easy read, and it was really quite fascinating about how things can change based on trusting that first impression that you get. And so that was a really cool book to read. On the fiction side, I really enjoyed Educated. And that was kind of a true story of someone who lived out in Utah and in a very progressive family, and still sought an education despite her family's non-support of that. That was very interesting. The Paris Architect is another really great book. That is about hiding Jews in Paris during the war. Really fascinating book and very, very interesting. So, I mean, like I could, it's just The Scent Keeper. Is it The Scent Keeper's Daughter? I think is another one that I really, really enjoyed. And that was about a a dad and a daughter living out in the middle of nowhere, and she didn't even know why. And then the story, I won't be a spoiler alerter, comes out near the end. And really, really good stories. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I could go on and on about books.
Well, I was going to say the Blink, I think, is the most recommended book maybe on this podcast. It comes up, or it's other Malcolm Gladwell books maybe, but mostly I think we hear Blink. So now I'm going to finally have to read that one.
It's a fast read, and it's just very relatable.
Oh, you don't know my reading speed. I'll make it into a month-long endeavor. My last question before I turn it back over to Sarah, how would you describe the last 12 months? If there was like a theme for that period, any just area of your life that was kind of at the front for the last 12 months, or just the biggest?
Transitional. I lost my mom in the last 12 months. Don't let me get too emotional. After a long illness. She lived with me for the last several months, and that was a labor of love. So I loved my mom, but boy, we knew how to push each other's buttons. So it was that way to the very end. And my brother came to visit, and she decided to say goodbye, and it was well ahead of schedule. But she had always said she didn't want to have some deathbed experience and be miserable. And man, when she decided to go, she just went. And so I considered that a blessing. But after that experience, I went through a lot. It was a really, really rough time at work because we were in the middle of a huge project with many, many, many deadlines and commitments. And here I was trying to deal with grief and all of that. So coming out the other end of that was hard. Luckily, my boss was super supportive and was like, take as much time as you need, even though I knew there wasn't a whole lot of time to take. But then I kind of like put it on pause. And then once we got past a certain point, then I left. And so that was nice. And went and spent some time with my younger brother and got the grieving on together and got to get to the smiling and good memories part of that. And so ever since then, it's been like 100% go. And I have good friends and great family. So it's been just, kind of a little bit of a journey, but makes you feel lucky for what you've got. And I've got my health for the, greatest part. And I've got all the pieces in place to live life with calm and peace. And so that's where I try to keep it.
Focused on the positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some affirmations in there.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, did we not touch on anything that you wanted to ask about?
Sure. You know me. I always have follow-up questions.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you, Beth, for sharing all of that. And I just have a few extra questions for you. And again, if I'm treading on something that you don't want to answer, you can just say, I don't really want to get into that. That's totally fine. But I was curious about your upbringing or your early years. Was there any like major trauma or anything that happened?
I'll tell you, my mom suffered from depression. So that was something that my dad wasn't super forthcoming about. So it caused more confusion than anything in my very formative years. And you kind of had to figure it out on your own over time. So I did kind of assume the caregiver role at a much earlier age than a lot of kids probably would. And maybe that's why I'm so ultra nurturing today. I don't know. Because mom would have a bad day or a bad week. She disappeared for a month a couple times, and there was no real strong explanation for where she went, but she always came back with some lovely pottery. And my dad, I think his downfall was overprotecting sometimes. And so he was like, oh, don't worry about it. Everything's okay. Don't you worry. Instead of being like straight up with us, especially once we hit, adolescence. I mean, we were old enough to kind of know, and we kind of figured it all out on our own, but, we had to tread lightly. And my mom took some pretty serious medications that if she got off schedule, that could impact her ability to be reasonable. Mm-hmm. And she had some dark moments that I don't know how conscious I was of them, but then you just knew to be super careful and not trigger her when she was feeling really down.
Gotcha. Okay. And was there anything difficult or traumatic about your birth? Do you know?
No, there was not.
Okay. And I was noticing in the background you have paintings. So are you a painter?
I have kids who are very creative. I try to be creative, but my paintings are more the, go get a glass of wine and follow along type of paintings. But I enjoy it very much. And, I've ever since my kids were little, we went to the, place where you go paint the pottery and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, we do all of those things. Always try to keep it artsy.
Yeah. Do you like to have a lot of art in your home and things like that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, knickknacks and the whole nine.
Okay. Are you knickknacks because is that like a sentimental attachment to things?
Yeah, I think that's more, it's the way it was in my family. I still have my grandmother's teacups. She collected them.
Do you like maybe hang on to things longer than you should, or hang on? Do you ever have like too much? Are you kind of a pack rat?
I used to be, but I did let that go after divorce and having to move. I think I have made several conscious decisions in my life to shift gears, and that was one of them. So I kept little bits and pieces, and I think that stuff that's harder, and I have a lot of still in the basement in tubs, are things from when the kids were little.
Okay, gotcha. Do you have any interest in like scientific topics, or is that like something you read a lot about?
Not really.
Okay. Do you practice any type of religion or anything like that?
Yes, I'm a Christian.
Okay. And do you ever, either now or when you were younger, enjoy being kind of shocking or catching people off guard or rebellious?
No, I think I can be perceived as loud sometimes, or maybe more attention-seeking behavior in the past, and maybe that is the drama club person in me. And I think that was more my outlet for that, was doing it like on purpose in a theater rather than feeling the need to do that like just out in public or in my friend group or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. What is your level of like activity as far as like, are you someone who likes to like go for walks or anything like that?
I like to go for walks, but I am definitely never have been super athletic.
Okay.
That works out with all of those twisted ankles.
Yes. Well, maybe that's what started me with my aversion to exercise. Who knows?
This jumping around is overrated.
Yes. I do have trouble staying motivated on an exercise routine. I will own that.
Are you very involved with your church, and do you have any kind of role there?
I used to be, but I am not currently. I volunteer a couple times a year, but not anymore. I think I kind of, ever since COVID, I used to be Sunday school teacher and choir director and all of those things.
Oh, okay, that's big. That's what I was getting at. So you used to be a Sunday school teacher?
Yeah.
Sunday school teacher.
The younger, the better.
Choir director. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I belong to a choir now. It's a community choir, not a church choir.
Okay.
And I also sing on the 4th of July every year with a group.
Okay. And just like a couple more questions. You mentioned your mom used to kind of hold a grudge. Is that something that you do as well?
No, I don't hold grudges.
Okay.
Yeah, she also used to call me a show off whenever I sang. So,
Got to keep them humble, right? Those
yeah,
kids.
my dad would encourage me. My mom would discourage me. My dad was the first one to buy the tickets to the show. My mom was like, "Oh, do I have to go to another one of her shows?" So, I mean, it was just like total opposite.
They probably said, "We're being good. That's balanced parenting." I'll build her up. You break her down.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. Well, she gave up when I started doing Shakespeare in the Park. She was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to that."
Have you ever had any type of GI issues or anything like that of that nature?
No.
Okay. And then finally, you mentioned something about you mentioned briefly about your brother. Can you just describe like what does he do? What's his personality?
Oh my gosh, salesman all the way.
Okay.
Very gregarious, everybody's buddy. He's adopted Georgia, good old boy mentality. Just super friendly. I think both of us lean toward an empath type of personality, just real people persons. And, neither of us knows a stranger. And boy, I mean, he could like be the next, if he owned the Cheers bar, like everybody would be hanging out there.
Okay.
That's who my brother is.
Cool.
And he is a salesman as a career.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for answering all my questions. And yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, this is the moment where Sarah gets to look over her notes a little bit and talk it over. And so I'm going to put you in the waiting room, and then we're going to bring you back in probably like 5 minutes or so, and she'll have her pick made, and we'll find out if it's right.
Ooh, I can't wait.
All right. So you get a little break.
All right.
All right. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah. I know you do your list, your columns. Is there one column that is dominating the other column?
I think so. I mean, I really was really seeing. Okay, so when we started out, I was already kind of feeling the Cancer chart, and I still feel that way. And this Capricorn chart, I don't know. I kept trying to like. Sometimes like one chart just really stands out to you, and then the other one I'm having like a harder time like trying to get any kind of like energy from it or like understanding of it. But I mean, that's kind of why I asked her about. I was trying to throw in some questions for this Capricorn chart. Like it has an Aquarian moon, and so I asked her if she had like any interest in like scientific topics, because that can be a thing. And she said not really.
From the Aquarian, if you were looking for things, because I was like noticing little things along the way, she does not like being told that she's done something wrong, like from a position of authority, like challenging her. If she thinks she's right, to me that sounded Aquarian. I forgot that there was an Aquarius related chart, but I remember just me personally being an Aquarian. I was like, oh yeah, I hear we don't like that kind of thing either.
Yeah. And so the Cancer chart has a stacked first house. It has Uranus, which is very Aquarian energy, Pluto and Mars, which can be, and Virgo rising, and so I feel like that is definitely somebody who is going to be resistant to somebody, telling them what to do or trying to control them, or especially if they don't necessarily, if you haven't earned her respect yet, type of deal.
But she's not starting any revolutions.
Well, maybe
that we
she
know
has.
Of. Maybe she didn't want to. Maybe she didn't want to talk about that.
But, before we met her, I said, I feel like, okay, the Cancer chart has Jupiter on the midheaven, Moon in the ninth house, and South Node in Sagittarius. So I felt like there was 3 signatures there for someone who was either going to be like a teacher, some sort of spiritual teacher, maybe, or have like a minister type job, or travel is, I didn't say that, but that's another thing. So I was listening for all of those like Sagittarian words, and right at the end, she's like, oh yeah, I was a Sunday school teacher and choir director. She also, like, in her job, she does teaching. Like, teaching doesn't always have to be like a school teacher. I mean, she educates people in the workplace, was something that she said. She said loves informing and educating. She's the, she said she tends to worry and obsess about things. That can definitely be a Taurus moon energy. Yeah, I can go on and on, but trying to think if there was anything else that really. She said she had to move a lot when she was growing up, and that often we see with someone who has their IC or 4th house in Sagittarius. I remember our guest Lauren from many episodes ago. She also came back on as a guest astrologer. I just remember, once I've seen someone's chart, I can usually remember it. But she's also a Virgo rising with a Sag IC or 4th house, and she had to move like 9 or 10 times. So, yeah, I thought that was stood out to me again, pointed me to the Cancer chart. Just everything I wrote down was more leaning me towards this Cancer chart, and all the transits. I mean, she gave me a lot of transit dates, and I really investigated those on both charts. And I was really things were just more leaping off the page with the Cancer chart. So I feel like I've just like put all my eggs in one basket. And so it will be really embarrassing if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like I am. Hopefully I feel like this is one of the easier ones. But cause like, okay, so like a Capricorn sun with an Aquarius moon, Aquarius Venus, Mercury and Cap, that's a lot of Saturnian, Aries rising. I don't know if that would be someone who would be like so like creative and empathic, and what were some of the other words she said? She it sounds like her role is very like she has so much nurturing energy to her, which is very Cancerian. So anyway, that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, then I'll be on the same page. We'll have agreement between our two. No.
Are we going to count this?
Oh, yeah. If Sarah's right, we're going to count it.
Count it twice.
Yeah, right. No, last week it was off the record, but this week we're back on the record.
We're back on the record.
So it counts. Yeah. So we're going to try to break that streak.
I hope so, God. Please.
You live by the transits, you die by the transits.
No. Oh, Lord.
No, if you're feeling good, then we don't have to labor it. We'll talk about it in more detail, win or lose, in the debrief. Mm-hmm. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So we'll be back with our guest right after this.
Hey, Astro Detective listeners, this is your resident astrologer, Sarah Hartshorn, and I wanted to let you know about my coaching practice called My Cosmic Coach, where I offer natal astrology readings, human design readings, and a whole lot more. And right now, for fans of the Astro Detectives podcast, I'm offering $25 off my signature one-on-one coaching session. This is a holistic approach I developed that will guide you through any kind of decision you're trying to make or challenge you're navigating, where we're going to consult both your human design and astrology charts and even pull a few cards too. And you'll walk away with really clear, really practical, and actionable advice that is aligned and specific just to you. So head on over to mycosmiccoach.com and use promo code AstroDetectives at checkout when you book a one-on-one coaching session with me. That's mycosmiccoach.com.
Welcome back, everybody. We've got Beth back with us, and Sarah has chosen one of the 2 birth charts based on the information that Beth shared. And this is that exciting time when we see, did the stars lead Sarah in the right direction, or have they deceived her?
I hope not. God. They can be so tricky sometimes.
Half the time.
Oh my God, Scott.
Half the time they're tricky.
I know. 55%, Scott. Or 45%. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So here we go. Okay. Sorry. It's on me now.
The spotlight is shining on you. Beth knows this from her experience on stage, this feeling.
Oh gosh. Just saw something in the other chart that bothered me for a second, but okay. But no, there's just too much, I feel like, evidence on this side. So I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going with my gut this time. And because last time I went again, I like bailed on myself at the last second and switched, and that didn't work out. So
the head damned or the heart be damned.
I just
the gut is going to rule today.
Just like any detective, you got to go where the evidence takes you.
Wait, I thought it's the evidence versus the gut. He's like, I don't know. All the evidence is pointing at this guy, but my gut tells me it was the first witness we talked to. There was something about that guy who made me think he was guilty.
Well, I guess my gut was aligned with the evidence. And
well, there you go. Slam dunk.
The problem was with that last one. Like all the evidence was weighing in one direction, except for like the last 3 questions, and that I abandoned everything. Anyway, okay. Sorry, we're back to this episode. Okay, Beth. So just to tell you our choice here before I reveal my choice. So I had the choice between a Cancer and a Capricorn. So Beth, are you a Cancer?
I am.
The relief.
I didn't want to say that this one was a slam dunk, but that's what it felt like.
Those slam dunks have bounced right back off the rim and hit Sarah in the face before.
They sure have. Oh my gosh.
She's gotten, what is it when the tall guy just bats the ball right back down on you when you're trying to do a layup?
I have no idea. You're asking the wrong person.
The ball has been blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's happened.
Before.
But okay. Well, thank you, Beth. Thank you so much for being a Cancer. You've made me so happy.
So at one point I was going to tell you I was a lefty. Would that have made a difference?
Left-handed? Mm-hmm. That there's probably something about that somewhere but I haven't read anything about that. So I don't know how astrology relates to left-handed, right-handedness. Wait, although I would say that is something that's unusual, right? To be left-handed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can get into the debrief why I think that might be.
This is that and other great topics will be in the debrief. Are you able to stick around a little bit longer, Beth? We do a bonus episode after this to just kind of like detail what went right and wrong in the chart reading.
All right.
Before we do that, Beth, is there any links or any places you would like to send our audience? Whether it's your own projects or causes or any place you would want them to go?
I did recently start a podcast with my best friend B, and it's called Social Leopards. And you can find us on most mainstream podcast apps or on YouTube.
Nice.
Oh, that's so cool. What is it about? Sorry, Scott.
loneliness and social anxiety, and just everyday people talking about their experiences and their struggles and how they overcome those things.
Are leopards very solitary creatures? Is that part of the name?
Yes. And so our kind of byline is solitary creatures navigating the social jungle.
Wow. That's so fascinating.
Would that have changed your guess, Sarah?
No. I feel like that really fits.
Of course, now it reinforces,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Sarah, did you want to plug yourself, or you have the option? There's people probably just heard a Sarah ad literally in the last break.
Yeah, they probably did. But you can find me at mycosmiccoach.com, and I'm on TikTok and Instagram under that handle as well. And I do human design and natal astrology readings.
And you can find me in your local retail store bothering you about solar panels and asking you why you're still paying the electric company too much money when there's free electricity hitting your roof. All right.
My brother just did that.
Good experience, I hope?
Loves it.
Excellent. We'll leave that part in.
Okay.
Okay, that's it, everyone. Let us know what you thought by commenting on whatever platform you follow us on. Links to our accounts are in the show notes. If you like the show and want to support it, you can visit patreon.com/AstroDetectives. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss the next episode. Rate and review and tell your friends. This conversation continues on the Patreon-only debrief. And until next time, this case is closed.